Hey everyone, let's talk about the Odroid H2 Plus. So the Odroid H2 has been out for a little while, and they've recently just added a new edition called the H2 Plus. It's a tiny single board computer, has a Celeron J4115 quad core, and it's pretty cool. I'm going to talk to you about the configurations I ordered, the ordering process through hard kernel, which is located in South Korea, and just kind of like the accessories I got and some notes about the system. So, what do we have here? It's basically a tiny little computer. It's smaller than mini ITX. It has a bunch of different I/O and like expansion options, which is really cool to see on a board this size. And they offer a lot of cool accessories for it. So I've got one completely built here, and I've got a plain board here. I'm going to start with the one that I've actually built and just talk to you about it for a little bit, and then we'll move on to the board. So this is the Odroid H2 Plus. This is this is case type 2. So it's about the size of an Intel NUC, like one of the larger ones. Basically, you don't really have many storage expansion options in this case, and there's no, although this looks like a fan grill, which it is, there's no room for a fan unless you get a really slim 80 mil fan, but I don't think that's going to happen. So it's fanless, and it works pretty well. So on the back in your I/O panel, you have USB 2.0, 2 ports, USB 3.0, 2 ports, DisplayPort, HDMI 2.0, which can do full 4K 60, and then your onboard audio with optical output, which is very cool. Obviously, your DC power, which I think it takes like 12 volt to 20 volt. It's got a really wide range, so it shouldn't be too hard to find a power adapter. You can buy one from Odroid, and they're pretty cheap. On the other side, not much to look at. We have a very nice Vandal style power button. Let's see if you can hear this over the mic. It's very satisfying. It does light up. I would highly recommend it. The power button was only $5.60. Totally worth it. You have a window for your power and reset button that are on the board here, so you can just stick your finger in, reset it. Have some passive vent holes on the bottom of each side, so air can come in through the bottom and sort of passively radiate out the top. And then on the bottom, not really much. Sorry for the fingerprints. This plexiglass, or pseudo plexiglass, is really like Lexan. It really attracts fingerprints and dust and all that, but it's got a nice like smoke color, so I think it's pretty cool. You can see through it, but it's not just clear, transparent. On the bottom, there is a little bit of room if you want to install a 2.5 inch SSD or hard drive, but it's going to be pretty tight if you do that, especially with the NVMe slot down here and your 2 DDR4 SODIMMs. So this is, again, the Type 2 basic like NUC style. I pretty much wouldn't recommend this case unless you really need this form factor. It does limit you quite a bit, and it's nice. Like I said, the form factor is nice, but there's no active cooling, and having a little bit of active cooling is plenty for this. It can run passive, but when you get into the more stressful operations and programs and whatever, it does get pretty warm, especially with the NVMe on the bottom, and then obviously the passive on the top. So I would recommend just like a little bit of active cooling, and it would be totally fine. But again, I really wouldn't I wouldn't really recommend this case unless you're really just after the form factor. So this whole setup, let's call this the Type 2 setup. It was $119 for the Odroid board, $10 for the power supply, which is this guy here. There's really no reason not to buy the recommended one. You can get whatever sort of plug you need for your region. It just comes off, but obviously I have the US plug. This guy is 15 volt, 4 amp, 60 watts. So absolutely plenty for this little computer. Plus if you want to do some hard drives and stuff. So again, it was only $10 for that. Case was $10. The case comes completely flat packed and everything like that, and has some nice protective on it. I'll show you with the other case that I have here. So $10 for the case, power buttons, $5.60, Bluetooth module, which I really would recommend. Let's see if I have one around here somewhere. Shoot, I just had it. I don't know where it is. The Bluetooth module is just like a little tiny USB Bluetooth adapter. That is $3.80. Just buy one. They're way cheaper than buying it on Amazon. So total of all that's $147.80, and then I paid $23 shipping, and it arrived in like less than a week. So it was really, really fast. And then again, that was international shipping. So everything shipping and subtotal was like $171.53 for this setup. Looking at the Odroid board itself, you can see that really fat passive heatsink for the quad-core Celeron. There's a GPIO board, pins here, some of which, if you do have the power button, you're going to be using for the power button, the LED and all that. This little red wire you see here is the CMOS battery, and they do include that with the board, so you don't have to worry about buying that. Let's see what else. We've got our Sata ports at the bottom. It's 2 Sata 3, and then these white ports you see here are Sata power, and I have the cables here. So they actually give you a Sata cable and a power cable all in one. You'll notice these are 4-pin Sata power, so you don't have to 3.3 volt mod them if you're going to use them with like a 12 terabyte shuckable WD hard drive or anything like that. It's kind of nice. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah, I mean, it's just not really a whole lot to see. It's a tiny little board, but there's the the IO, main IO area. Down here, it's kind of hard to see. That is an Emmc Reader. Let's see if my camera can focus on that. This like little guy right there. So you can get a 16 gig or 32 gig eMMC chip from hard kernel if you want to use a little bit of onboard storage for like boot or something like that, and you don't want to use the NVMe, or you want to use the NVMe for something else. So on the back of the board, not a whole lot to see again. 2280 size M.2 slot. It is NVMe only, so it's PCI Express X4 2.0, not 3.0. But it does achieve pretty good speeds. With my 960 Evo, I was getting like, I think around 1800 megabytes per second read. So it's pretty good. Obviously not terminal speed for that drive, but really nothing to complain about for a board this size. 2 DIMM slots, up to 32 gig officially. I think 64 gig might work with the correct modules, but I wouldn't count on it. So 32 gig is pretty much as you'd really want to put in this anyway. I'm going to use these with like 4 and 8 gig. So yeah, it's nice that it's got SODIMMs and everything's in one tiny little package. And I guess really the last thing to say about this guy, right here is a PWM fan header port, and with some of the cases they do include an 80 millimeter PWM fan, and that is where that would plug into. It does have standoff holes, which we will be using for the cases. It looks it looks like a full-size motherboard, but with tinier standoff holes. So yeah, it's pretty cool. The Celeron J4115 is a Gemini Lake. It does have Intel QuickSync. This one's got the UHD 600. Most of the quick sync chips that we use for hardware transcoding have like the 610 or the 620 or 630. Obviously, the performance is going to be a little bit less on this guy. I think it only clocks to about 700 megahertz, where the other ones clock to 900 or a little bit over 1 gigahertz. So I will do some Plex transcoding testing on this guy. I know that you have to basically remove a driver from the Plex package for the transcoding to work correctly. I think it has to do with just the Celerons and the Gemini Lake stuff. So I'm not really sure what that is. I'll just have to look into that a little bit. And when I do make a video on that, I of course will put that in the instructions on how to use it. In my short testing, I was able to get like 3 or 4 transcodes up and running on Windows with no problem. I did see a little bit of that pixelation issue, so I think we'll have to remove that driver, like I said. It wasn't reaching 100% CPU usage. I didn't feel like it was struggling at all at 3 or 4, so hopefully you can do more, and hopefully in like 10 or so. But one thing that people will ask about with this guy is, wouldn't this make it for a really good pfSense build? I think it would, but the main issue is that these are Realtek NICs, and pfSense and Realtek don't play really that well together. There is a manual driver fix that you can apply, and people have had good success with that. They are 2.5 gig NICs, but they will do 1 gig. So I think in that case it'll be fine. It's a little expensive though. So like this whole setup would be great for pfSense, but keep in mind that you have to add storage and RAM. So you're looking at like a 16 gig Optane and 4 gig of RAM, and that's going to put you into like the $200 bracket. And honestly, this thing's not that small. So I'm not sure that I'm just going to go out there and recommend people do that, because you know, it's pretty new hardware. Like, yeah, it's power efficient and all that, but it just kind of, I don't know. I think $200 is a little bit of a waste, and this thing is cool, but I don't know. I just honestly probably wouldn't recommend it for pfSense, because you can get like an Optiplex for $60 and then throw a NIC in it, and it'll already have RAM and storage, and then you're at like $80 for a really good pfSense box. Obviously, it'll be a little bit larger, but performance will be the same, if not better. And then, yeah, you'll be saving a lot of money. The other thing I wanted to say was the hardware in this guy is very similar to the let's see if I can get this thing on the Dell 5070 thin client, the Dell Wise 5070 thin client. This guy is a little bit different form factor, obviously, but it has the Celeron J4105, so just a model down from the 4115. This guy you can often pick up for, my service tag is showing. You can often pick up this guy for like $130. It already includes the power adapter. Often includes RAM and eMMC storage on board. So like this one has 4 gig of RAM and 16 gig eMMC. Obviously there's no PCI Express, but you know, it does have gigabit NIC, 2 display ports, 4 USB 3.0, another USB 3.0 on the front, 2 USB 2.0, and USB Type-C. So it does have pretty good features. It's fanless, just like this guy. It's just another option. I'm not saying one's really better than the other. The Odroid is very cool, and if you're in like that maker board space where this is something that you're after, I would probably recommend this over this. But if you're looking just for like the hardware perspective and something that you want fanless, totally silent, this will perform just about as well. And obviously you have the, I mean, sometimes like these are so new, you'll get the Dell warranty and all that with it. So it is kind of nice to have that. All right, so Dell guy out of the way. Let's talk about the other case. and some of the accessories. So I think honestly the best thing about the Odroid experience is buying accessories right from Odroid, because they have really, really good prices on them. For example, the power supplies, or the power switch is again a Vandal style, so it's got that really nice tactile feel and good quality, but that's only like $6. So that's this guy. Their cases. This is the type. Let's look. I think it's the Type 1 case. Yes, this is the Type 1 case. They all come flat packed, and they have, I mean, it's the same material as the other one, but you can see they're all protected and bubble wrapped. But this is only 20 bucks for the case, and that includes the hardware. Here's all your mounting pieces and fan grill. The Type 1 case came with a fan, and unfortunately it's not a full PWM connector, but it's this tiny little mini PWM connector. So I've used this fan on the other one, and just had it kind of like sitting on top, and it worked great. It was very quiet, so I'll probably just use this one with this. Unfortunately, I can't like swap it on an Arctic or something. Maybe I'll just get like an adapter, but this was all 20 bucks. Your SATA data power, the cables are $3 a piece. So I got 4 of these for 12 bucks. You can get a GPIO extension board for $5. A LCD module is a 20 by 4 pixel. That is $6.50. The Bluetooth module is $3.80. So like, I really like all of their accessories. They're super cheap, very affordable. So if you do end up buying one of these, browse the compatible accessories and just like load up your cart with all the stuff you might ever need, because I mean, it's going to come from Korea, South Korea. So just buy everything in one go. Don't like, oh, maybe I'll buy it later or whatever. Like, just if you think you might need it, just buy it, because it's a pain in the ass to get it shipped international. And you might as well just, if you don't need it, you don't need it. But so yeah, you can get a fully like loaded up Odroid setup for like 200 bucks, which is very cool. So I do like that, and I do like the case options, and seems like they're coming out with new. Oh, here's my Bluetooth module. I didn't see it earlier, but yeah, it's just a tiny little guy. So anyway, other than that, I will be doing more with this, and I know I always say that, but I am very excited about these guys. I will do Parsec client testing. I will do Unraid testing actually with this case, since this case can hold 2 hard drives. That'll be fun. We'll be building the smallest Unraid server with, I don't know if I'll use 12 terabyte drives, but maybe 2 sizable hard drives and NVMe cache, and see how it performs and all that. So that will be very interesting. Obviously, we're going to do Plex transcoding. I'll see if I can get into some pfSense testing, but it's kind of a pain to take my network down and do that. But yeah, so overall, my verdict with the Odroid H2 Plus and all of its accessories is I like it a lot. It is a little expensive once you get down to adding storage, adding RAM, and once you get all the accessories, you're probably going to be looking at least $250 for a complete setup. So if that is your thing and you don't mind the price too much, then I would go for it. But I mean, obviously there's better performing stuff out there. Maybe not in this form factor. I mean, it is pretty small. It is kind of that Nook form factor. Last thing I would say, I didn't mention this earlier. This is my 960 Pro, and in this Type 1 case, this Type 2 case, this Nook style case, you can just see there's really no airflow. Like you can see the drive when it's plugged in, but there's really not going to be any air going over it. So what you need to do is get a heatsink for it, and I will link my NVMe heatsink thread and accessories in the video. But at minimum, you need to get a heatsink for it, because this thing under sustained writes, I was getting like 65 Celsius, 68 Celsius, and it was throttling quite a bit. But when I put this fan on here, and I got just like a little bit of air going through the case, it dropped drastically down to 55, and that was with the heatsink. So then it wasn't throttling, but I can only imagine what it would do without the heatsink. So, they're like $6 for a 2-pack. I would highly recommend these, and then you would have to worry about it just like that much less. So yeah, if you have any questions about the H2 Plus from Odroid and Hard Kernel, give me a shout. I will be working on these quite diligently. There is a starter thread on the forum where I've posted some pictures and whatnot of these guys. I will post everything that I ordered for these. If there's something you want me to test out, I will do my best to do that. Just post in the thread and I'll report back with my results. But for now, that's all I have to say about these guys. Hopefully we will have another build video coming soon of, maybe I'll put this case together, throw some hard drives in, throw this board in. We can install Unraid or FreeNAS or something like that and see how it works. So I think that's kind of the next thing on the horizon. And for now, that's all about this guy, and I will catch you guys in the next one.